Good evening and welcome to our Hairbrained Live with Slate Hair Education number 288. We're here in London with Michael Pizzolidis, the co-founder and art director of Slate Hair Education. Michael.
Thank you so much. And we're here with James Akers, the cutting director of Slate Hair Education.
Hello.
We're here in force. We've got MJ Pizzolidis behind the camera. She'll wave at you through the window, through the mirror, sorry, I'm sure. So what we're doing for you today is this lovely little pixie crop. It's inspired by the Mia Farrow, the quintessential Sassoon image that we all remember from the 60s when he was in the boxing ring. And I just want to show you my version of it and the way, and the way that I would do it myself as well. Cheers, man. I've always got a few in my pocket. So what I've done is I've taken my first center section, and if you guys come a little bit closer, what I'll show you is that first center section has really decided the whole haircut for me now. Because what I've done is I've worked, if you come a bit closer and put your head down. So I've worked from quite far back. The reason why I've done this is because I wanted to keep the length in the back. So I'm retaining the weight at the back of the head shape. So when we look here, that the hair here, when it falls back, it's going to leave more length. That's why I started from here. So the good thing is once you've done this first section, you can actually decide the rest of the haircut quite easily because you know that you've got the weight in the back of the head and you know you've got the length that you're trying to create in the front. So just taking another small section, lifting it up, and I'm just connecting it to the hair that I've cut from the last time. So my first section allows me to have a guideline. What I'm doing is I'm slightly over directing to the last one, and this is just so I can see my guideline as well. But what I'll be doing is as I walk around the head, I won't be over directing so much because I want to follow the head. The reason I want to follow the head is because I want to create quite a nice little rounded shape. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We're just doing this lovely little pink pixie. We're here with Charlotte. Say hi, Charlotte, please. Hey. Thank you everyone for watching. We've just done the second section at the top, and you can see the length we've got for this cute little pixie going on. We've just taken our first section triangle, and we've done a second triangle now as already, and we're slightly over directing to the last one. So I'm just taking my third section from the top now as well, combing the hair down nicely. The hair's nice and wet, which allows me to keep consistency. And what I'll do is I'll get rid of a little bit of my guideline, because it's too big a section, and now I'll just work with this area and connect it through rounding, following the head shape as well. Guys, please, if you have any questions, we'd love to hear them. So any technical questions about this haircut or any other haircut, just please don't hesitate to ask. We love answering it, and let us know where you're from.
Okay, Michael, just a quick question.
Yeah.
I understand that you're standing on the left side. Are you, well, left to me,
Yeah.
Are you gonna, is there any reason why you're doing that?
So to be honest, the reason why I'm standing here is just so everyone at home can see what I'm doing. To be honest, if I was going to do this normally in a salon, I would actually be standing on this side. The reason is because I'm going for a shape that's actually going to be rounded. If I stood on this side, I'm going to have more tendency to pull the hair towards me and therefore creating more of a round shape. If I stand on the opposite side like I am now, I'm going to have more of a tendency to pull it towards me, which means I'll get a squarer finish. So normally I would stand on this side when I'm cutting this, but because I want everyone at home to see what I'm doing, I'm standing on this side.
So body position is quite an important thing in what you do.
Body position is very, very important. It's really going to allow you to facilitate you to create the kind of look you're going for, because as humans, we always have tendencies. Like I said, I have a tendency to pull hair towards me. So if I'm standing over here, I'm going to have a tendency to pull the hair this way. So what I have to do is I have to be conscious when I'm standing on this side that I'm not pulling the hair too far to the middle. So it's just being aware, I think, of what these things are likely to do, and then what you can do is you can counteract them with what you're doing. Everyone, please let me know if that made sense or not. We'd love to hear your feedback as we cut hair. We'd love to hear what you think about the look and the technique, and if it all makes sense or not as well. But please, any technical questions, we love hearing them.
So we've got hi from Dundee, from Illinois, from the UK, which is amazing. Hello from Scotland. Hi everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you're seeing, we'd really appreciate it if you could share the video. We love it, sharing everything that we do. It's really, really, really appreciated by us guys. Michael, the same questions come up. Who cuts your hair?
Well, I have one of the world's world's best people doing my hair. It's my beautiful wife and our style director, MJ. She's behind the camera, so maybe we'll give her a sneak peek later. But yeah, so I know, I'm overdue for a haircut.
We've got a question, Michael.
Yeah.
Have you got any product in the hair?
So at the moment, I don't have any product in the hair. At the moment, I'm just using water. I find that sometimes when you put a primer in, it can leave the hair a little bit greasy. And what I'd rather do is create that kind of effect when I'm finished the haircut and not before. But for those of you that are just joining us, what I've done is I've created my first section in the middle, a little triangle. I took the length from the crown and I wanted to leave the weight in the back, and I brought it shorter in the front. So essentially it's a round layer in the top, and the shape is round as well. From that first section, I've just pivoted around the top, and I've elevated ever so slightly to the previous, creating this rounded shape on top. I always like to start this from the top, because I feel like then, once I've done the top, it gives me balance for the rest of the haircut. So guys, any questions, please? We'd love to hear them. Let us know what you think. We've got our beautiful model here, Charlotte, who's been our little guinea pig today. And I've cut Charlotte's hair many, many times. She's been our muse for many years. So if you go on our Facebook or on our Instagram, you'll probably find a lot of different haircuts on her.
So we've got our first proper question from David. Thank you so much for the question, David. We really appreciate it. The question is, by cutting from the tips of the scissors, does this give the perfect straight lines?
By the tips, you mean the flat ends of it?
I believe it means the ends of the scissors opposed to
the thing. What I always say is, you've got your finger length, so as long as you're not cutting past your fingers when you're cutting, then you're going to have a clean line. As soon as you use too much of the blade or you go past to this point, past your knuckles, you tend to lose the cleanness. So that's why when you lift the hair up, just working from the point, from this point to that point and not past it will allow you to keep a clean line. Almost think of it like when you're drawing with a pencil. As long as you keep the pencil flat against the line, you will have a clean line. So just to recap what we've done though so far, we started from the top, we've done our center section and we've pivoted round. What we've done is when we've pivoted round, we've created this rounded shape on the top. We've done one side now, and if you look at it from this angle, we've created it from shorter in the front to longer in the back as well. So now we're just going to move to our second side. So we're going to come back and do the exact same thing we did when we started. We're going to take a center section from the front, from the top, sorry.
Well, this is a good time for me to interrupt this question.
Please.
Because
throw
it
them
now. Mercy, I hope I said that right. She said, can you show what is the point of pivoting?
So the point of pivoting is when you're trying to create a rounded shape or keep the same guideline in the middle. So if I want to keep this as my main guideline from the middle at the back, if I pivot round this point, you can see that it's always staying the same here. So no matter where I go, I'm actually keeping the length of the back. And this is the most important thing for me, to create the head shape. So once I've got the angle, as long as I pivot round, I'm going to keep the same guideline. If you do square sections, you're going to find that instead of keeping it weighty in the back, so I'll move it round. So when we've got the center as a guideline and we pivot, we'll actually keep the weight in the center. If you work square, you're more likely to keep the haircut square. So because we're going for this rounded feel, it's important to pivot. I actually had a great teacher at Sassoon who taught me that when you want to create a round shape, think about when you're peeling an orange. If you want to peel an orange, how do you peel it? You peel it in this kind of pivoting manner where you take these triangular sections down, and that's something that will really help you keep your guideline and never miss it. So it's very, very important when we teach that we always keep those points of reference. Like now, we can see that I'm not going to cut this because we've got the guideline from the underneath. And so starting up here is just allowing us to then keep the weight where we want it to be. And in this case, at the crown area. I hope that answers your question. Let me know, give us a thumbs up.
Perfect. A couple of things. We're going to see a bit more hands while you're cutting.
Oh.
That's okay. Kathy asked about your hair. Do you have your hair cut dry?
What did we do
MJ,
last time?
how do we
cut my hair? I think we need... Does anyone want to see me getting my hair cut on the next Hairbrain Live? If you want to see me getting my hair cut on the next Hairbrain Live, please comment now. Let's see how many people want to see me getting my hair cut next time.
We hope this all answers your questions. We want to say hey to Johan for tuning in. Thank you so much, dude.
What's up, Johan?
Very nice to see that you're joining us. So are you repeating exactly the same process on the next side?
Yeah, exactly. So that's all I've done. So once I've done my first section pivoted, all I'm doing is I'm repeating the same thing I did last time. But what I'm not doing is I'm not going down after the bone structure. I'm actually just working on the top area right now, because I've done one side and now I'm working on the second side, so that I can come back in and have the top as a guideline for how I'm going to connect in the sides as well. So by working from the top, what it's allowing me to do is it's giving me a guideline when I work on either side. Because to be honest, one of the hardest things in hairdressing, in my opinion, is balance. So if you can work the top first, it's going to give you more balance when you come through to do the rest of it. And again, balance is a really important thing. So what I'm doing is I'm not over-directing the hair too much to the center. I'm actually following the head shape, and I'm just creating this rounded finish. Like we said in the beginning, if I was doing this on a client, I would actually be standing on this side. But because I want you guys to see what I'm doing, I'm very kindly standing on the wrong side for you today. So it's all about just being aware of where you're pulling the hair. The more you pull the hair this way, the more you create a rounded shape. The more you pull to the center, the more you're going to create something square or triangular. So it's all about what effect you want to create.
I want to say hi to George quickly. Thank you so much. You helped so much over the weekend at Southern International and for the ACT Hair event. It was incredible. Thank you for tuning in.
So George is actually our Cyprus coordinator. He works with us in Cyprus doing Slate there, where we're going to do a class next and a nice big show as well. So thanks so much, George. We look forward to seeing you really soon. We can't wait to be back in Cyprus again.
It looks like you're going to have your hair cut, dude, for the next...
Hair live, yeah?
People are pretty up for it,
yeah? I like that, I like that. So what we're going to do next time is we're going to do a nice little curly fro on me. Or comment if you think I should have a Mohican. Who thinks I should have a curly pink Mohican for the next live video?
MJ Michael's wife is looking at me in disgust at the moment, so let's hope not too many people say that.
Okay.
I want to say hi to Mateus from Poland. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Thank you, Maurice. Thank you. It's really great to have you all with us. So Michael, where are you working to? Whereabouts? When do you decide to stop at this point?
Actually, the good thing is when I've pulled all the hair over to the top of the head, so when we have the recession of the head, what I mean by this is where the head rounds, I'm actually lifting up the hair above this point. So if we look from the side, what we have is we have where the head rounds, and what I'm doing is I'm actually lifting the hair above where the head rounds, and anything that comes in, I'm cutting it, and anything that doesn't, I'm not going to cut anymore. So if I actually lift all of this hair up, we can see that there's very little to cut now because we've actually lifted all the hair up to the top of the head. And that's it. So now we can see. Yeah, we love questions. Please, ask away.
It's from Kathy. I'm not sure exactly which means, but can you increase the volume? Perhaps increase the length in areas, or...
I mean, with volume, it's about where you want to place the volume. So the more length we create, the more volume there is. So I wanted more volume in the top of the head and around the crown area. Hence why I took my first section and I actually... Sorry, let me just take this nicely. So when I took my first section here, I actually decided where I wanted most of the weight or the bulk to be at the length. And so it's at the back. So we can see that the back has more length and it goes shorter into the front because that's where I want it to be slimmer and flatter. So what I did was I increased the length in the back in order to create this shape. So now that we've actually done the top, what we can do is we can do just a really quick cross check. I find these cross checks are actually the thing that make the haircut because there's a it's only like 1% difference, I think, between when you do check it or you don't, but actually it's almost 20% of the end result. So we can see there's just a little bit of weight there, and that's why I've just cleaned it up as well. So taking these horizontal sections, it just means that we've blended everything we've done, because we took vertical sections first, we're now working horizontally to just clean it. A little bit of tension actually makes the whole haircut blend much better. So if we want to talk about a clean blend, a little bit of tension, horizontal cross check, and we can see that the hair's just sitting nicely. So what I'm doing is I'm working from the center because that's going to give me a guideline on either side as well.
Amazing. I've got a couple of questions that have come in.
Yeah, questions.
So
please.
one, I believe David's just joined us recently. Do you cut and stay on the same side of the shoulder for the whole cut?
No, so normally, like I said, when I'm doing this haircut, because it's a rounded haircut, what that means is, if we look at it from this angle, it's actually coming round. So what I did was I actually stood on the opposite side, but in reality, you shouldn't do this. When you're cutting, if you want to create something round, when you stay on this side, you have more tendency to pull the hair towards you, and that way create a round shape. When you do the same on the other side, and you pull the hair towards you, again, you're going to create more of a rounded finish. If you stand on the opposite side and you pull everything towards you, it's either going to be square or it's going to be more triangular. So depending on the shape you want is relative to your body position. And just to recap on this pink pixie, it's a bit of a tongue twister, that one. What we're doing is we started from the center, we did a triangle, we pivoted from the center round, and we didn't come past the roundness of the head. So we just created this shape, and then we did the same on the other side as well. So what I've done is I've cross-checked the center horizontally, and now I'm actually going to come back and I'm going to check both sides as well. So guys, please, any technical questions, we absolutely love to hear them. Let us know what you're thinking and if you like the video.
So Kathy, thank you for the question, Kathy. She said, did you cut any hair prior to this haircut?
No, actually, Charlotte came in and it was just wet, and we've started it from square one, so I haven't done any pre-cutting on this at all.
Amazing.
So don't worry, this is reality TV. It's on the fly. So now what I'm doing is I'm actually taking the center that I've already cut as a guideline, I'm lifting the hair up, and I'm just making sure that it's the same angle and length. So this is again just a cross check of what I've done. I'm using the center as a guideline, and I'm making sure that the angle is the same on both sides that we've already cut. So where there's a little bit of weight, I just remove it gently. And again, this is really what's going to make all the difference from the haircut, because this will be our balance and it will be our guideline from the sides as well. So once you have the top done, you can actually focus on doing the sides, knowing that you have a balanced haircut. What I always like to do in hairdressing is connect the dots. So once you've done this line here, and it's the same on both sides, when you connect one side and you connect the other side, you're going to have balance in what you do as well. So a lot of it is about balance. I think once you can create balance, you can then create asymmetry. Asymmetry is the easier thing to do. Balance is the harder thing to do. And guys, why don't you give a little like if you like the hair color as well?
Yeah, someone asked what the hair colour was, but I feel like that's down to...
it's all Charlotte,
it's
actually.
down to Charlotte.
Charlotte did it. How did you do your hair, Charlotte? Tell everyone about your colour.
I use Bleach London, big pink. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
There we go. Easy, guys.
There you have it.
If you need a colourist to work in your salon, Charlotte's available on Tuesdays. She'll be more than happy to come in and colour your clients for you. No problem. Cool, guys. So yeah, please ask us any technical questions you like, anything that you've been thinking about with hair, any kind of haircut. Doesn't have to be this haircut at all. Just any tips if you want on balance, symmetry, blending, suitability. Can be anything you like.
I also want to thank everyone for tuning in. It's really, really great. Thank you for the great comments. If you're really enjoying this, then please like and share this video. We'd like to spread our education. That's the whole point of this. So please get involved. We really, really love the fact that you're joining us. Michael, you look like an Egyptian model apparently, so that's fantastic news as well.
Great. Do you think I can make money out of it?
Probably not. But
Probably not. That's all right, it was worth a try. So just to give a quick recap, what we've done is we started from the top, we took our first section from the middle and we decided the length at the back that we wanted to leave because we like the weight, and we took it angled shorter towards the front because we want to create this little cute fringe as well. It's a bit of a pixie cut. What we did after that was, after we had this first angle, was we started to pivot from the back and we worked around the head, but we didn't angle it down. We just came straight out on both sides. So we've got this beautiful round shape which comes shorter in the front, longer in the back, but now we've actually got the length from the front. So we can use the top as a guideline for what we're doing now.
So Michael, with this sort of shape and this technique,
Yeah.
could you, for example, if someone asked for this, if
Yeah.
someone asked for a pixie cut but wanted a longer fringe,
Yeah.
could you just change the angle of your fingers and create the same thing, but with a longer fringe, so it's adaptable.
Yeah, 100%. So the cool thing is, obviously, when we took that first section from the middle, we actually decided the length at the back and the front. But if you want to go for something longer, you could just change your angle. You could always do something square, which means you're going to flatten the head shape at the top. So if they have an egg head like me, you can do this, which is good. You can also leave more weight and length in the front. If you want, you can even angle it a different way. If you want to go shorter in the crown and leave lots of length in the front. So judging from that first section you've taken, you can do really a huge variety of haircuts. So what I'm doing now is I'm lifting the hair up from the front, and I'm actually taking the pre-cut hair from the top as a guideline, so we can see where we've cut the hair from the top, and we're just taking a guideline as we work down. So
I've got a question for you, Michael.
Yeah,
which is a great question.
Good.
Would you start at the top with all shorter haircuts?
No, it really does depend. So there's a very key difference. As we said also, people have tendencies, right? So if you start from the top, what's going to happen is you're going to have a tendency to go much more slimmer when you come down to the sides. So what this means is if they have a wide face shape, if they have a big face basically, then what you can do is if you start from the top, it's going to have a tendency to slim things down. When you start from the bottom, what happens is you have a tendency to build the weight. So if you start from the bottom, you're going to have a tendency to make the head bigger. If you start from the top and come down, you're going to have a tendency to slim that corner and slim the face shape. So normally what I would say as a general rule is if they've got a big head, start from the top. If they've got a small head, start from the bottom. Of course, that's not why I did it on Charlotte. It was purely because actually it's better for balance, and Charlotte has a perfect head shape, so it doesn't matter where we started. The truth is that if you have control of what you're doing, you can start anywhere. That was the beauty of my teacher, Gregory. What he taught me was if you truly understand how to cut hair, it doesn't matter where you start, because you can do a haircut inside out. But as humans, we do happen to have tendencies. And the tendency is when you start from the bottom, you make the head shape bigger. When you start from the top, you have a tendency to slim the head shape down.
That makes a lot of sense.
Does that answer your question, guys? Just just give us a comment if that all made sense, please.
I've got two questions for you. First one is, how many years have you been hairdressing?
Ooh, I've been hairdressing for 170, no, I'm joking. I've actually only been hairdressing for 12 years, believe it or not. But the truth for me is I was very lucky. When I started hairdressing, I started to work with some of the best companies, with the best people in the world. And I had really amazing mentors growing up. So, you know, the people that I was working with were some of the best. And I basically just killed myself. I just worked every single day off. I was always up for doing hair. If anyone ever said to me, oh, are you free to do something? I would never ask how much. I would just say, yeah, I'm free. You know, and that was the beauty of me. It's because of my experience. You know, if I worked 7 days a week, I've just really allowed myself to build my knowledge better and better. So my advice to anyone is just work with the right people. Surround yourself by good mentors, because they are the ones that are going to lift you forward. And always be willing to learn more and do hair, because that's what it's about. Experience is better than anything. So really having the right people to learn from and putting it into practice with experience is the key things. You know, that's why anyone watching Hairbrained is already doing the right thing, because they're definitely learning how to become better hairdressers. You're taking your time off right now to watch this video to enhance your career. And you know what? You're going to enjoy your job even more, because once you have the ability to create the haircuts you want, you're going to just enjoy your job even more. And that's what I found. When I got a skill set to a point where I was able to achieve my vision, I was really happy with what I was doing then. That's when I started to really enjoy my job.
So I've got some more questions coming in, dude. One of them is, do you ever come to the US and have cutting classes?
You know what, we went to the US beginning of this year and last year, but we haven't actually got any jobs coming up. So if you do want to have us, get in touch, bring us over. We'd love to be there. So
We'd really love to be there.
Guys, leave us a comment if you want us to come to the States, and let's make it happen.
I've got a great question from, excuse if I get this wrong, Petrosinovich. I say Petrosinovich, tell me if I got that right. What importance has the pivoting of the section in relation to elevation and over direction?
So they're all separate things, to be honest. When you think about your elevation and your over direction. So these are two key things right now that we're talking about. If you think about elevation, what you're creating is you're creating a line, you're creating graduation, or you're creating a layer. So if we look at it from here, what we have is you can have a line, you can elevate to create graduation, or you can lift it up to have layering. So this is simply the elevation of the hair. When we talk about over direction, we're actually talking about shape. So if we pick the hair up and we over direct to the previous, we create square. If we don't over direct, so we pull the hair straight out, we're creating something round. So when we pivot a section, we're more likely to either create a rounded shape, or we can actually pull everything to the center and create a triangular shape. So really, your sectioning is enhancing what you're doing with your over direction, your elevation. They're not the be all and end all, but they will help it in certain ways. So if you do want to create a more triangular or a more rounded shape, you're better to pivot. If you want to create a more square shape, you're better to take parallel sections. So they help, but like I said, if you have the understanding, and then you understand and you're very, very conscious of your over direction and your elevation, you can actually do it in many different ways. It's not the only way to do it. So that's my key thing, is about having that understanding of what you're trying to create, and then you can choose how much over direction you want in the haircut or not.
Thank you, Richard. That's a great question. We really appreciate it. And everyone, please, the more questions, the better. We love it. Ask as many as you can. And again, if you're liking what you see, please like and share this video. We really appreciate it. We want to get it out to as many people as we can. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in and watching and sharing. So what I'm doing now is I'm coming to the corner of the bone structure here. This is the mastoid process. So it's just this little bone that we have here. And I'm using that as a little measuring stick to stop. And I'm actually going to come back afterwards and cut the back from the back rather than coming around from the side. So what I've done is I've worked from the front, and I've taken my sections and I've connected. So let me go back to the beginning even for you. So we took our first section vertically, we decided our angle, we went from long to short in the front, we pivoted round one side, we pivoted round the other. So we had the top all finished and it was the same length on both sides because we cross-checked. Then we came round to the side here and we just took these nice curved sections around the head and we connected in the sides. So we just worked around, and we stopped where we got to the bone here now as well. So what I'll do is I'll do the other side and then I'll come back afterwards and I'll do the back as well.
Do you often use points of the head of the bone structure to decide?
Yeah, I always try and use the bone structure. Obviously what happens is when you cut hair, hair's molded around the shape of the head. So if you don't use the head shape, if you don't use the bone structure as a reference, what's going to happen is your haircut's going to mold around the head, but it's not going to sit right. So that's why it's very important to make sure you work around the bone structure.
That makes sense.
I hope that does make sense, guys. Yeah, as always, let us know if everything we're saying makes sense to you, and if you have any questions or if you want me to elaborate in any way and explain a bit more, I can.
Patrick, I'm not a colourist, but I would say her base colour is around about level 6. That would be my guess.
So what we did was we actually cut, remember, from the top, the whole of the top already. So when we take in this section here, we're actually connecting it to what we've already cut from the other side. So now that the top was the same on both sides, and I've connected here, I know that both sides are the same. So I had a reference point of the hair here and a reference point here. Because we had already cut the top and I knew the length I did on the other side, we connect the dots. So top's finished. I know the length at the bottom, I connect the two dots. And that is a great way for doing balance. It's working with bone structure, and then it's also working with points of reference. So I know that where the head rounds, and I can see where my pre-cut was as well, I'm just connecting it through now. So that is a great little tip where you just connect the dots. So I'd already done the top, and I'm just connecting the bottom, trying to avoid cutting Charlotte's earrings. Sorry, Charlotte.
I just want to say hi to Fed. He's come and done a course with us. I work with him. He's an amazing guy. So thanks for tuning in, Fed.
Hi, Fed.
Also, Marche said, do you always do curves on the side of the head for pixies?
It's not. It's about how rounded you want it to be. So if I was doing a really square finish, then I would take vertical sections that are very square to the head. But because I want to create something that's soft and rounded, I'm actually taking curved sections following the head shape. So the reason I'm taking these curved sections is because I want to create a nice, curved, rounded finish.
Perfect. Emily's asked an amazing question, actually.
Hi, Emily.
Perfect for you. Thanks for the question, Emily. So, when you talk about taking the bone structure into consideration, would you do that for any haircut or more for this type of haircut?
Every haircut, it's important. Even on long hair, you might think that it doesn't mold around the head shape, but it does. The truth is that hair is never, when we talk about it in hairdressing, away from the head shape. So it's always relative. So what happens is, you might look at someone and think they've got really big bones here, or they've got a really flat head. So what you can do is you can actually work your technique around the bone structure. So if they're big boned here on the corners, what you can actually do is you can come in tighter here. If they've got really slim features and you want to build it out, you can actually work from the bottom and save the length up here. So what I'm doing is, before I start every haircut, I'm actually thinking about the bone structure of the person before I start. You know, that's why I think sometimes when you do your own shampoos, it's even better. Because what you'll do is you'll actually feel the person's bone structure and decide what you want to enhance and what you want to hide. Of course, when you talk about short haircut, it becomes even more important because there's nowhere to hide. So if they've got a massive bone sticking out and you cut it too short, you know, you might find this on men's, you'll see it. So that's why you have to check for scars, you have to look at the bone structure, you have to find any way that you can that's going to help blend everything more. Cool.
So, big compliment. Mike Turpin from Houston said you're his favourite teacher.
Oh, man.
And he's in school and it's really, really helping him get through it. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you watching. We really, really appreciate it.
You know, that's the thing about it. You know, obviously when we do these things, you know, just it's from your comments that we know how we're doing. So, you know, we really appreciate you guys taking the effort to tell us these things because it makes it all worth it at the end of the day. You know, we've all been there where we've struggled to learn and we want access to education, and I think that's why it's so good, the world that we live in these days, where we have education at our fingertips on the internet, where we can all get together as a community here on Hairbrained and watch videos and talk about hair. You know, that's really what it's about.
So Penny asks, where are you located?
So we are located everywhere. We are nomadic people. We sleep generally on the couch. No, I'm joking. So we're based in London, but we travel internationally. We have two homes, essentially. We travel between London and Cyprus continuously, and in between those trips, we travel the world. So, you know, we've been to China, we've been to America, we've been to Mexico, we've been to South Africa, we've obviously traveled around Europe. So we really go everywhere there is work. So if anyone out there likes what we do and they want to have us in their salon or in their academy, just get in touch. Go to Slate Hair Education's Facebook and just ask us and let's organise it. So we basically go everywhere. So just to come back to the haircut quickly, guys, and then we'll answer some more questions. I want to recap what we've done. We started from the top, we took our first section from the middle and we angled it down. So after that we pivoted from the crown and we worked around the head and around the head on both sides, but we didn't come into the sides yet. After that what we did was we worked across and we connected the length from the top and we brought it through to the sides and we stopped here where the roundness of the head is. We did the same on the other side. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the crown again to the bottom. So I'm just taking the first section. Again, I want to leave as much weight here as possible so we can see where the last bit that we cut was from the top, the weight that we're trying to save here. And all I'm doing is I'm using that as a reference point to then come down and connect the bottom as well. When I'm coming from the top here, my fingers are pointing where I'm going. So I can see the length I'm creating from where my fingers are pointing to as well. So guys, any questions? We'd love to hear them, please.
Okay, so we've got a lot of compliments, so thank you everyone so much. If you could like and share this video again, guys, we'd really appreciate it. Sarah, thank you so much for sharing. We really appreciate it. So Cherie, She thinks she's missed a lot. She needs to catch up.
Okay, no worries. So just to recap, we started from the top. We worked from a high point in the crown down. We pivoted round the top on both sides, and we just connected through on both sides. And now I'm going to get some water. I'm Michael Pizzolidis, this is James Akers, and this is Charlotte. Cool.
Do you want to talk to us a little bit, Michael, just about, I mean, we talk a lot about suitability and bone structure.
Yeah.
How do you measure that? How do you decide what suits someone? How do you decide what fits someone? What's right?
I think at the end of the day, you know, you also have to be the judge of what looks good on people or not. But then there's certain things that will create certain effects on the face shape. So if you want to create a slimmer face, what you have to do, if you want to create a slimmer face, you have to take the side shorter and the top longer. This will slim the face. If you're like me and you've got a long face, you want to do the opposite. You want to keep the top down and widen the sides. So it's all about proportions. If you slim the sides and you make the top big, you're going to make the face longer. If you have a tendency to slim the top and make the sides longer, you're going to widen the face shape. So if they've got a big head, you want to make it slim and long. If they've got a small head, you want to make it short and flat. So it's just going against the grain, basically, against what they naturally have, to always try and come into the middle.
Do you sometimes look at it from this way as well, as opposed to just...
Definitely. So, obviously, what it is if they've got a long face, we're looking at it from the top to bottom. If we're looking at it from a wide, we're looking at it from left and right. But it's always how these points work together. So we work from the temples, the cheeks and the jaw, and it's how these points connect to each other is how we decide what kind of a face shape they have. If these points are here and all of these points stick really far out and they don't change, we know that it's a wide face. But if this stays the same but it comes in, we know it's a slimmer face. So we can work on these things. Obviously, if you do fringes, the more open you make the fringe, the more wide you make it. If you make a small fringe, you slim the face down. So it's all about what you're trying to create and what you want to open or close, because that's what it is. It's about opening the face or closing the face, depending on what you're trying to create as well.
There's a question of what size of scissors are you using?
So I'm using a 5, I think, or 4.5 or 5. So I like to use really small scissors because it allows me to get more detail into it. The way I think of it is that imagine you went for a surgery and the doctor came out with this massive butcher's knife. You'd be a bit scared, right? Absolutely. So that's why when we use small scissors, we work on really accuracy of detail. And that's what it's all about. It's about being able to work very precisely and accurately with what we're doing. So again, what I'm doing here is I'm just pivoting around the head and I'm connecting to what I've pre-cut already. So I'm getting closer and closer to the bone structure. So once again, what I'm doing is I'm pivoting from the... We've done is we've only done one side now, but I'll just quickly show you if we spin around. So what I've done is I've worked the center section and then I've pivoted round, connecting to the point. So what I'm doing is I'm always using this as a guideline and then I'm working my way down. Does that make sense to everyone? Does everyone understand what we're doing today?
That makes sense. Okay, so Melissa, thanks for tuning in. I hope that recap was enough to describe what we were doing today. So Donna said, would you call this a 90-degree haircut?
It's not necessarily, because what I'm doing here is, if you can see actually, the hair's not at 90, it's been brought down. So we see this is down. If it's 90, this would be up. So we're actually creating graduation in what we do as well. So you can see from the head shape that there's a build-up of weight. This is because we've actually graduated in the bottom as we work. So we can see that when we come here, what we're doing is we're working in the hair and we're actually pulling the hair slightly down and I'm just connecting it through now. So I'm really pulling all the hair together because this is my last section. We can see a little bit that I haven't cut already. And we're actually bringing the head down. So if it's a 90-degree cut, we'd actually be coming from underneath and pulling up. So this is the other thing about it. When you actually come in with your comb, if you come in from a downward or a sideward angle, you're more likely to graduate the hair. If you come from underneath, you're more likely to layer it as you lift the hair up. So actually the angle that you put your comb in is very important as well. But guys, please give us a thumbs up, like it, let me know how you're feeling, if it's all making sense. I'll do a quick recap before I do my last section on the other side as well. So what we've done is, again, for those of you just joining in, we started from the top, we worked in from the crown into short length at the front. We pivoted on both sides. We connected the sides to the top hair that we had already done, one side, other side. We then took the guideline from the center at the back and we pivoted from here, connecting it in all the way around, connecting it to what we had already cut. And now we're just gonna do the other side as well. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if it doesn't.
So Michael, I've found that I've been talking to one of my apprentices at work recently, and he has to do for his MBQ, which is like our hairdressing school over here.
It's
he has to
cosmetology school.
Absolutely, exactly like cosmetology school in America. So he had to do a uniform layer.
Yeah.
Could you use this technique to do a uniform layer?
Yeah, you can. I mean, it is the same concept. It's just obviously what we're using over direction and elevation slightly differently. And actually, the elevation is creating more of a graduated feel. In other words, we're not elevating as much as we would in a uniform layer. So we're graduating the shape. So we see this nice little head hugging shape. And what we're doing is we're using over direction to create, or we're losing the lack of over direction to create a more rounded feel. So when you do a uniform layer, it's normally rounded, but that's why you can actually choose. And that's what we don't do here at Slate. We don't teach you just a haircut. We try and teach you the way you can create all haircuts. So if you understand what elevation does, where you create a line, a layer, a graduation. If you understand what over direction does to create different shapes, you can use this to create any technique and to get any shape as well. And so that's really what we want to give. We want to be able to give you the idea that you can create whatever haircut you want. So it's not about what's best or not. It's actually about just, can you create your vision? You're a hairdresser, you're creative. You want to create something, you've got an idea, we want to show you the tools we use to create them as well. So this is a beautiful shape coming through, we can see it now. It's got a slightly little mullety vibe, which I absolutely love. I really love the color, I hope you do too. Give it a like, give it a comment if you like the color, please guys. And yeah, just ask us any questions, we love all the technical questions.
Cherie's got a question for you.
Yeah, hi Cherie.
So thank you for the question, Cherie. The question is the connection at the crown from the graduation on the back to the section on top rounded? Shall I repeat that?
Yeah, go for it.
Is the connection at the crown from the graduation on the back to the section on the top rounded?
Yeah, so what it is rounded, because what's happening is, if you think about it, from the nape at the bottom, so from, let's say, the area that I'm taking now, it actually goes shorter into longer, and then from long here into short. So the shape, when you look at it like this, it goes short, it gets long, and then it goes into short again. So
there's no corners.
There's no corners, and the widest point is at the top of the head. So this is where we're placing all the length. So because we've pivoted the whole haircut around this top bit of the head is actually where we've got the most weight from as well. And that's what we want to see. So you guys who were watching from the beginning will have seen that what I did was, when I had finished, I had taken the center section, pivoted around the top, connected the side, connected the other side, using the length here as a guideline. When I connected through both sides, I then took a center section from the back and I pivoted round. So I used that and I pivoted round, leaving the weight at the top, and I did the same on the other side. Now what I can do is actually I can give it a really quick cross check as well.
Good luck.
Cheers. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come actually from the top and give it a quick cross check. Now, the good thing about coming from the top is you have a tendency of layering the hair more, and whenever you layer hair, you have a tendency to blend the haircut better. So just by elevating it slightly, and literally, I'm not actually really cutting anything, you know, you can see it's like the tiniest amount, but by elevating the hair here, what I'm doing is I'm just creating a beautiful blend. I'm using a bit of tension because tension helps blend haircuts better as well. And I'm just working towards the top. So just coming from on top, it allows me to elevate the hair more. And when I elevate the hair, I blend things better. And I'm just getting rid of any inconsistencies in my technique as well. So I'm just working all the way to the top, making sure there's no corner there, and then I come from the bottom as well. What I'm doing is from here, I'm not coming low, I'm actually elevating a little bit more, just because I like the kind of length we've got here and the softness. So it's just allowing me to keep that softness by starting my cross check a little bit higher. Does that make sense, everyone? Please let me know.
please guys, use this opportunity as well, not just about this haircut. If you have any questions about your day-to-day, something that you've done today that you're confused about or anything, please use us. We're here for you. Ask Michael. I'm sure he'll explain everything very well for you. We'd really like to hear your questions.
Yeah, tell us about your day. Tell us how your haircuts were.
Yeah, how did you go?
Did you do anything like this? I mean, if you started this haircut, would have you started it from the top? Or would have you started it from somewhere else? Like we said, if you start from the top, you're more likely to slim the haircut down. If you start from the bottom, you're more likely to build the corners and widen the face shape. So guys, we'd really love you to just try this technique, try this sectioning, and let us know how you go. You know, we're always available. We love talking to people. You know, we've had people message us from all around the world, just showing us pictures of their haircuts, asking, and we've really built some great relationships with people, talking to them about their haircuts and day to day.
Do you find that generally you always start the same haircut that you want to do in the same place for the technique, or do you sometimes decide that you want to change it?
I think when you do hairdressing, what you have to do is you have to follow your heart. So for me, normally, wherever I start, it's where I've had that gut feeling. But that gut feeling comes from experience. So I know that when they've got a wide head, I want to start actually from the top because I want to slim it. Now, I haven't really thought about it, but I know that from my experience, that's actually what happens. So from having that solid training, it's allowed me to almost just start things instinctively. And I think we have to do that as hairdressers. We have to follow our instinct, you know, because that is really who we are as people, you know. And I don't start every haircut the same. Each head is different. You have to feel it, I think. You do have to feel the hair and decide for yourself where you're comfortable to start with. But just keep in mind of what you're trying to create. You know, what is the shape? What is the technique? Where are you going with it? I think that's the key thing. Cool. So I've done a little cross-check, guys. We're getting closer and closer to the end now. So if you do have any questions, now's the time. Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Sarah, thank you for the question, Sarah. What's your Insta and Facebook accounts following, please?
So,
share.
Thank you so much, guys. So we're at Slate Hair Education. If you come and do a little zoom in here, MJ. Slate Hair Education. So if you just type in those words, Slate Hair Education, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Google, it'll show you all of our work and everything that we've been up to as well.
Perfect.
Cool. So what I'm putting in is I'm putting in a little bit of defrizz from Bumble and Bumble, and I'm just going to give this a little blast dry as well. But quite like the look already, actually.
What kind of finish are you going to go for?
So I'm just going to smooth the hair a little bit with a brush, and then we'll put in a bit of product later to give it a bit of texture as well, because I think this haircut really lends to a bit of texture. Cool. So I'm just using my comb, and I'm just blow drying the hair forwards. Always, when you blow dry the hair forwards, it allows the hair to sit slimmer and flatter as well. The one thing about this defrizz is, my God, it makes the hair slippery.
So Michael, do you want to tell us a little bit about the event we did on Saturday?
Yeah.
It's the Act Hair event.
So what we did was we did Act Hair event for the second year in a row, and it's all for charity. And this year's charity was My New Hair from Trevor Sorby, which teaches people how to do wigs if they've lost their hair due to cancer. And so it's a really important cause. So if you guys want to know more about the event, if you go to Act Event or Act Hair Event on Google, you'll find a lot about it. This year we did it with Trevor Sorby, Zagat, Yanis Kumachi. So a big shout out to all those guys who gave their time for charity. We also had Mohawk Hair Studios, and we had Sophia Dale come and do the color. And so it's a really amazing event for charity, and I think that's what's so important about hairdressing. It's about giving back whenever you can. So we always feel like as hairdressers, we're really lucky. We've got great lives, we earn good money, we should always try and do something to give back as well. Ooh. Can anyone hear me over this hairdryer? Please let us know. Can you hear me? Is anybody out there?
How's it looking, guys? Is everyone happy? Is everyone enjoying it? I think it's really cool. I think it looks amazing. Now, Michael, do you tend to If you were to say point cut this and break it up, would you tend to do that on dry hair or wet hair?
I would tend to point into it on dry hair, but you know what? It's all about what you're trying to go for. So for this haircut, I haven't pointed into it, but if we ruffle it, I don't really know if it needs. The point for me is if you point cut, there should be a really definitive reason for it. It should be because you want to remove weight, or it's too heavy, or you've done some kind of disconnection that you want to blend. So I think those are the really key points that you have to think about when you want to point into something, is why you're doing it. That's why I find like hairdressers, they basically just kind of do a haircut they're not sure about, and then they spend so long pointing into it to try and fix it. And I used to be like that as well. I used to point into haircuts just because I didn't like what I had created, and then I tried to fix it. But actually, when I point into haircuts now, it's for a specific reason. It's because, like now, I want to break up that outline and create a really nice, short, jaggedy fringe as well. So there's always got to be a reason for it. Beautiful. So what I've done is I've come from the top and I'm just pointing into the shape, softening out that fringe. This is the fun bit, right?
So why do you put the pressure on? Why do you put the tension on?
Because that allows me to actually keep control of the hair. I find that's something that's really important in hairdressing, is actually having control of what you're doing. I find a lot of hairdressers, we don't actually have that complete control over what we're creating. So when you put tension in a haircut, it gives you more control. You might have more graduation, but actually you can always cut the graduation out. So it depends what's more important to you. Is it more important to have a really wonky line with no graduation? Or do you want to have a really clean, sharp line with graduation that you can remove later? So the choice is yours, really. And I think that's what people have to decide. There's always a cause and effect, isn't it? So it's really just important for you to decide what is more important to you.
So I guess once you've got your structure in now, you've done all the basics, then now this is your time to play.
Yeah, exactly.
This is your personality.
This is your refinement bit. This is where you kind of get to leave your mark and decide really how you want to create it. Do you want to open the face? Do you want to close the face? If we wanted to close the face, we wouldn't be doing this. But because we want to open the face shape, this is a great little thing to do, and it's a lot of fun as well.
Amazing. I just want to thank you everyone again for tuning in and for all the questions. We really, really appreciate it. It makes our job so much more exciting. And it makes it all worthwhile. So thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, guys, please, if you do have any last questions, let us know. So what we can see now is that actually we've opened up the front, and then we can see where there's a bit too much weight now. So that's a good thing. When you do the outlines, it all of a sudden shows you where the weight is within the haircut. And we can come back in and just precisely remove the weight now from where it is. Because it might not be too much weight when you leave the outline, but as soon as you cut that outline, you just find the weight. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to refine a little bit the outline here in the side, and I'm going to leave this mullet vibe in the back as well. So it's a bit of a modern pixie, let's say.
So would you say that first of all, on wet hair, you work your technique, and your technique, you make sure that's perfect, and when it's wet, then you use feeling and you use vision to see more where that weight sits?
I mean, definitely, like obviously when the hair's dry and you've refined the outline, that's when you really get to see what the shape looks like. And that's when the last little detail comes in. And that is really, really important as well. So this last little detail is what's going to make the haircut grow out nice as well. So we're just going for that slightly little mullety vibe as well. But it's got that really short, cute pixie feel to it. And so we're just leaving the length here. We just come, tuck the ear with the cool tattoo away. And we come in. And we just nip off a little bit of the excess as well.
So you're using the point of this as
Yeah, so this one I'm just keeping it soft. We don't want it to look like Spock or anything. We're just keeping it really nice and soft, combing the hair forward, leaving the mullet length, and just refining that outline now.
Why would you use scissors as opposed to clippers in this situation?
Because I always have more control. When I use scissors, because if you think about it, I mean, I've heard this said before, and I mean, it's a bit of a harsh one to say, but it's the difference between using a lawnmower. You kind of don't have the same control. So what I'm doing here is there was just a little bit of weight here, and I'm going to come back on the other side as well. And I'm just going to again, so now that we've cleaned up the outline here, there's just a little bit of weight there. So I'm lifting the hair up from the ears and I'm just coming in and I'm just getting rid of a little bit of that weight that sits there. And that's because of the bone structure. You know, that's because the bones are there and that's really what has built the weight there. So it's just a tiny little touch, but it can make all the difference in the world as well.
Sometimes when the hair's like this, a little bit grown out, you can really use the colour as well to see where your weight is.
I mean, that's why I always like to definitely use more of the colour in this one. You know, if you go short enough, you can actually create a whole feeling with the colour. So it depends how much you want to play with it or not as well. What do you think, guys? Let us know, please. We'd love to hear your opinion. It means the world to us. So if you like this, please share as well. So.
Thank you so much for the lovely comments, guys. Sarah loves it beautiful. Cherie looks great. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We work really hard at getting these, especially Michael does anyway. So
we do a Hairbrain Live every month, guys. You know, we absolutely love it. The Hairbrain community has been amazing to us. So we just, you know, can't thank everyone enough for having us. We're just putting on these final touches for this little cute pixie. Just leaving the length here as well to play with.
Top cleaner. And no horns from you today.
And no horns from me today. So if you guys check out Slate Hair Education, you know, you'll see that we've used Charlotte a lot. She's our muse. We love her to bits. So we can't thank her enough for always. So guys, that's really cool. So you can see that there's just that little bit of a mullety feeling coming through as well. You know, I love doing all of this.
Looks amazing. So you're using a mirror now as well?
Yeah, I mean, we've got some mirrors everywhere. Luckily, normally when we do these videos, we have no mirrors, so I never know what it looks like till after I'm finished. But today, we get a little bit, so you can see where the weight has been left in the top of the crown as well. So that just gives us something to play with. And obviously, how we style it is always up to us. And just these little points here.
Michael, what would you say makes this a pixie?
So the fact that it's just short, to be honest, anything that's cropped like this, you know, you could call this a little bit more of a mullet, but for me, anything that's kind of like a rounded short cut like this would be considered a pixie. You can go shorter, you can go longer, but I think always anything that sits around this length, we can consider it a pixie. But obviously, when your client asks for a pixie, you might not want to give her this. The best thing to do is always ask for pictures. I think pictures say everything. So if a client always says to me, I want this pixie haircut, you go, can I see a picture? Or show them a picture of a type of pixie and see if you're both on the same page, because, you know, what people say and what you're thinking can always be different as well. Cool.
Amazing.
We hope you guys liked it.
It looks amazing, Michael. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for tuning in.
Why don't we get Charlotte to stand up as well, and we'll take this gown off. And let's see it in the light as well. And then we'll do a little recap for you. Cool. We had a little bit of pink bleeding. That's okay. Cool. So, let me have a look, guys. Cool. Just going to get a little bit of this pink off. Adds to the flavour. There we go. Have a look, guys.
Let us know what you think, guys. We really appreciate your comments. I think you look amazing, Charlotte. You look gorgeous.
Cool. So what I'll do is I'll just do a little recap as well. So how we did this was we started from the top center section. We took the length from the crown as a guideline and we worked down. Then what we did was we pivoted around the head and we created a round feeling. So we took that first center triangle and we pivoted around and we pivoted around the other side. So the whole top was already finished. Then when we came from the side, we used the top length that we had already cut as a guideline and we connected through as we worked. We worked round to the corner of the head here and then we stopped. We did the same on the other side, working through to the corner, and then we worked from the back, from the crown again as a guideline, and we came tighter in the neck, but we left a little bit of the length as a little bit of a mullet feeling. So once we had done that first section, we then pivoted around the head, so first, second, third, fourth, and then we connected it. First, second, third, fourth, and then we connected it. After that, we took horizontal sections and we just cross-checked all the way up, all the sides, and then we just point it into the fringe, leaving this really short croppy fringe. So guys, as always, what we do is we draw the head sheets for you. So all your real hair nerds out there, you can join us on Slade Hair Education's Facebook page, and we're going to do the head sheets for you just now, okay? So we want to thank you all for tuning in. We will see you next month, and good night from London. Thank you very much, guys.
Peace.